Good evening, I'm Shawn Yao.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Regina Lay. The big stories tonight, the lawyer of Bato de la Rosa says he still doesn't know where the senator is, but he's preparing for any eventuality.
De la Rosa's ally, Vice President Sara Duterte, says she's ready too for another impeachment complaint, which she claims is being used as a bargaining chip in the 2026 national budget.
And it has been a tough year for the Philippine agriculture sector, which has borne the brunt of several storms. We talk about losses and recovery with the Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel later in the program.
And here we are again, another news that indeed the ICC warrant of arrest is really present. Alam mo naman si Ombudsman Remulla, pero kung tatanungin mo, ayaw ibigay. Ang tawag namin yan, bluff. Bottom line, marites pa rin lahat. And of course, as a lawyer, I have to prepare for that eventuality.
Well, do not get kidnapped. That's Attorney Harry Roque's advice to Senator Bato de la Rosa after Roque himself posted on Facebook saying that the ICC arrest warrant against de la Rosa is already out. Roque's advice to the senator, magposas ka na sa loob ng hukuman, preferably sa Supreme Court. Mag-sanctuary ka doon, wag na wag ka magpapadukot. To this day, though, there remains no official confirmation of an arrest warrant for Bato, other than Ombudsman Pauline Verzosa saying he had a digital copy a few weeks ago. When we grilled him about that, Verzosa stood firm and said he's sure that it's imminent.
De la Rosa's lawyer, attorney Israelito Torreon, told our sister program Storycon that Roque's source is a friend. But he insists he himself does not know where Bato is. In fact, he did not ask when he talked to the senator's wife recently so as not to have to lie to the media. Ombudsman Boying Remulla had said that their last information was that De La Rosa, who has been absent from the Senate since November 11, was last seen in Pampanga.
Here we are again now. There is another news that indeed the ICC warrant of arrest is really present. And of course, as a lawyer, I have to prepare for that eventuality if ever it will finally be presented.
I know you're...
Ang kanyang source is kanyang kaibigan daw based on the text message that I received from him, hindi pa ako nakatawag sa kanya. So parang second information lang din. So tanong din ako, ang confirmation din meron pero hindi ako mabigyan ng kopya. So bottom line, marites pa rin lahat. Alam mo naman si Ombudsman Remulla, lahat ng information nandyan sa kanya. Pero kung tatanungin mo, ayaw ibigay. Baka ginawa naman yun para mabulabog si Senator Bato at mag-move kaagad at ma-monitor na nila. Ang tawag namin yan, bluff.
So do I take it to mean that at this point you still don't know where Senator de la Rosa is?
Affirmative, ma'am. Affirmative. And I don't want to know also. I'm not asking so that I will not be able to lie to you if you will ask me. Hindi ako magsisinungaling po.
According to Article 58 of the Rome Statute, the pretrial chamber releases an arrest warrant as soon as the ICC finds enough basis to hold the person to trial. The court recently changed its rules, though, making all warrant applications secret so as to allow authorities to act without tipping off the suspect. Right now, Torreon says their defense still lies on the premise that the Rome Statute is no longer legally binding in the Philippines since the Philippines is no longer an ICC member nation. At the moment, De La Rosa's joint petition with former President Rodrigo Duterte questioning the jurisdiction of the ICC is still pending at the Supreme Court.
Perhaps it is the better part of prudence to await the ruling of the Supreme Court before we will act on the matter. Kasi nga po, hindi naman po pwede na we will tear apart our constitution, our rules on criminal procedure just because of this alleged ICC warrant.
We understand,
Pilipino
sir.
pa rin tayo. I hope and pray that all of these issues would be resolved soon by the Supreme Court or any other courts for that matter, so that sana naman klaro na po kung ano po ang magiging legal remedies namin. Ngayon kasi hindi talaga klaro kasi medyo sabog talaga ang messages din ng ating gobyerno on the matter.
When asked about the issue, Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, Duterte's lawyer, said, "I have no information on a supposed arrest warrant for Senator De La Rosa. I do not believe that Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Remulla, the unique source of this dubious intelligence, would be so remiss as to dice with prosecution at the ICC for contempt by leaking the existence of a highly confidential arrest warrant for a suspect. Peddling fake news, however, carries no such risk.
Speaking of missing persons, the police have dispatched intelligence and tracking teams to locate contractor Sara Discaya and other respondents in the anomalous project in Davao Occidental. The case involves a flood control project in Culaman, Jose Abad Santos, that was listed as completed in 2022, but an inspection in September found the site empty. So last Friday, the Ombudsman filed graft and malversation charges against Sara Discaya, officers of St. Timothy Construction, and several DPWH personnel. Acting PNP Chief Lieutenant General Jose Melencio Natates Jr. has directed police intel and tracker units nationwide to be ready for immediate arrests. The PNP is also coordinating with other local law enforcement agencies for Sara Discaya's whereabouts.
Also last week, the Pasig local government ordered the closure of 9 construction firms tied to Sara and Curly Discaya over unpaid taxes and lack of business permits. The Discayas' legal team has denied the allegation of ghost and substandard construction in Davao Occidental. Attorney Cornelio Samaniego said the work in question was completed, citing records from the Department of Public Works and Highways. He did admit, though, that portions of the project were damaged, but says this was due to successive typhoons and other natural calamities, which needed repairs and caused temporary delays. Samaniego also maintained that Sara Discaya remains in the Philippines.
With all due respect to our what they call this, the Philippine National Police or the NBI or any agency na may mandate to effect the arrest warrants, no, against Ms. Sara Discaya and Ms. Roma Rimando, nire-respeto namin yun. But unless and until may warrant of arrest na inilabas ang korte, yung RTC Dico support, wala naman sila magagawa dyan. So kung magbuo sila ng team, it's up to them. We respect that.
Meanwhile, speaking of the ICC, Vice President Sara Duterte is currently at The Hague, Netherlands, visiting her detained father, former President Rodrigo Duterte. And while she was there, the militant coalition Bayan, or Bagong Alyansang Makabayan, announced that it is getting ready to file a fresh impeachment complaint against her. The plan is to file after February 5, 2026, when the constitutionally mandated one-year ban on impeachment complaints expires. In a statement, Sara said, and I quote, "This constitutional mechanism is being dangled once again as a bargaining chip right before the 2026 national budget is passed. To those who continue to exploit the impeachment process, stop hiding behind the language of good governance." She also said the new complaint did not come as a surprise. Duterte also alleged that as early as February 2024, signatures for her impeachment were being courted in exchange for budget allocations, something some House lawmakers say is a figment of her imagination.
Hindi ko po maintindihan yung statement na yan kasi unang-una sa House level, tapos na po yung budget process, di ho ba? Kasi nga, magbabaycam na nga, nasa Senate na. And then during the House proceedings, wala naman mga usap-usapan pa or what. Wala naman akong naririnig noon na i-revive yung impeachment case against her.
Drawing pa lang yan, kumbaga, no? And yet, nagsasalita siya as though kasado na ito. Malinaw naman ang objective para i-discredit. At this point, ganito pa lang kaaga, gusto nang i-discredit ng Vice Presidente ang lehitimong complaint laban sa kanya. Panlilin lang, typical ng Duterte, no, sabi niya, handa naman siyang palaging sagutin ang anumang tanong kaugnay sa paggastos niya ng pondo. Pero pagka may actual na venue at pagkakataon na, iiwas siya, di ba? O hindi sasagot.
All right, let's talk about this possibility of another impeachment and other issues with Deputy Majority Leader Lanao del Sur, 1st District Representative Congressman Zia Alonto Adyong. Good evening, sir. I'm sorry for that. It's a long introduction to you. So Deputy Majority Leader and Lanao del Sur 1st District Representative. Sir, medyo your audio is coming across a little bit choppy. Can you try that again?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Since we're coming off the story about potential impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte again, of course, that was coming from Bayan, the Bayan bloc. What do you think? Is there still appetite for it in the lower house? I remember at the height of the first impeachment complaint, you were one of the most vocal defenders of the process. Is there still appetite for it at the moment?
Well, let's be clear from the very start. She has already been impeached by the 19th Congress, and prior to the filing of the motion for reconsideration, we're just waiting for the Supreme Court's final decision on the matter. Remember when the Senate was dilly-dallying about whether or not they would proceed with the impeachment, convening the institution as an impeachment court, there was already a petition before the Supreme Court questioning the technicality and the legality by which the first impeachment was adopted and approved by the House of Representatives. So we're still waiting for the MR as of today. And there's also that one-year ban for an impeachment, another impeachment complaint to be filed. So that is as far as the House of Representatives is concerned. We have yet to hear from the Supreme Court when it comes to the MR, the motion for reconsideration that was filed earlier this year.
Yeah, the problem with that decision, Congressman, is that it's highly political, right? Either way they go, they're going to, upset a lot of people. What if that decision on the MR doesn't come before February and the one-year ban lapses? The question there is, will the House file another impeachment complaint? Do you think there's appetite for it? Is the leadership up for it at this point?
Well, at this point in time, let's cross the bridge when we get there. We haven't yet heard from the Supreme Court. It's premature to say, for example, that the House will be willing again to engage in another impeachment complaint. But again, some of the members who have already signified their willingness to file or to even support another impeachment complaint, as I was just listening to your audio earlier, several of them from the Makabayan bloc, it's part of their. I think it's part of their right as a member of the House to file any impeachment complaint. Should they think that the MR will not be heard, the petition for MR that the Supreme Court has yet to be to decide on reaches the point where the one-year ban will already lapse. So it depends. No, it depends on how some of the members in the current 20th Congress would be willing to file another impeachment complaint. But then again, that's too premature to speak about the entire leadership because we actually haven't discussed any impeachment complaint to be filed for this Congress, this current Congress, as of the moment.
So you guys in the majority haven't discussed with the leadership what will happen
No.
just in case, may mag-file because like you said, Makabayan has already signified their interest in doing so. And they also mentioned that they're waiting for the MR to see how they will move.
Shawn, the House is composed of 300 plus members. So we need to gather, and if there's going to be a major action that the House will take, definitely it would pass through leadership caucus. And because it's really, it's easy to file an impeachment complaint, but to gather support, that's another thing, right? So I guess again, to answer your question directly, there's no discussion, there's no talk as of today when it comes to the leadership of the House of Representatives, the current leadership, to even contemplate on filing another impeachment complaint this time around. Again, the position of the House is that we are waiting for the decision of the Supreme Court over the MR that has been filed a couple of months back.
Okay.
Well, VP Sara Duterte, Congressman, is alleging that signatures are being courted in exchange for budget allocations even as early as February 2024. What do you know about this, Congressman?
There's no truth to that. In fact, tama nga po yung sinabi ni Congresswoman Laila de Lima that the HGAB that was approved already by the House of Representatives I think a couple of weeks ago actually concentrated on the issue of how we can reallocate the 255 billion pesos taken out from the Public Works Fund to be redistributed to social services. So our intention really when we did the committee hearing up to the point where we discussed in the plenary the budget for 2026 revolves around the issue on how we can number one, how we can reallocate these funds, public works funds for social services in order that we avoid any further mess that might happen as a result of this flood control scandal. So there was no discussion about a horse trading when it comes to the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. So there's no truth to that. I don't know where she's getting all her information and all her news.
Okay. In September, the president said he was going to return the 60 billion that was swept from the PhilHealth quote unquote excess funds.
So let's talk the budget now.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you plan to do that? Because you were earlier quoted in prior reports saying that there is a process to getting it, but there's also a process to returning. As far as we know, the 60 billion hasn't been brought back in, and the Supreme Court ordered that it has to be brought back in through the 2026 GAA. Kindly explain, Congressman, how.
Well, yeah, Shawn, we already made we already actually restored the 60 billion pesos to PhilHealth prior to the release of the decision of the Supreme Court. Before we actually approved the HGAB, the House version for the appropriations bill, we already restored the 60 billion pesos to PhilHealth. So even prior to this decision, meron na po na naibalik naman po upon the directive request of the president that the 60 billion that was slashed in 2025 budget for the 2026 it has to be given back again to PhilHealth, because we understand this is tama nga. This is actually sourced out from the sin taxes, excess taxes imposed on tobacco, alcohol, etc. That would be used purposely for the implementation of the Universal Health Coverage Act. So that's what we did even prior to decision of the Supreme Court. Naibalik na po yan sa HCAP na ngayon.
Congressman, I think the bigger question is how was that restoration funded? Where did that money come from?
Well, it came from the 255 billion pesos initially earmarked for public works, no? Tinanggalan po ng lang yung flood control, etc. And most of these funds are coming from the earmarked identified flood control programs for 2026. They were all taken aback, and then ginawa po natin, and upon the recommendation, of course, of the and request of each agencies, we have appropriated enough funding for their implementation of their ongoing programs, and one of which is actually the 60 billion pesos for PhilHealth. Actually, this is a subsidy, no? Kasi 53 billion ang nandoon sa original na national expenditure program that was submitted to us. So when the 255 billion pesos was already available for redistributing this to other agencies, we have earmarked 60 billion of that to compensate for the 60 billion pesos that was left taken out from the 2025 for 2026 budget appropriations.
What you're referring to, Congressman Zia, is because when Secretary Vince Dizon stepped in as DPWH Secretary, he studied the budget and he slashed the 255 off,
yes.
right? So it came from that. But is that proper?
Yes, that's because it has not been approved yet by the House, and the House has the has the mandate to realign some of the not realign, but to increase increased budget items in the proposed GAA. That's why we hold the budget hearing in order to learn from the agencies themselves kung asaan yung mga ongoing na mga programs, asaan yung kulang ng pondo, asaan yung mga continuing appropriations. And by the way, the 255 is not just the flood control programs. These are also programs that have duplication. Kaya nga nagkaroon tayo ng, even the President also advised and directed the Secretary Vince Dizon to reassess again and review the budget so that we can finally talk with the PWH regarding the proposed budget. Because when Vince Dizon came into the picture, when he sat appointed as the secretary of DPWH, he told us that he cannot defend the budget for DPWH because that was not his budget, meaning he wasn't there yet in the DPWH when the budget proposal was being discussed.
But Congressman, I think the question also is the budget route, the proper mechanism to return those funds to PhilHealth, because some people are concerned that by doing this, by just returning it to the national budget, parang hindi na po ma-hold accountable those allegedly involved in diverting those funds and who allegedly profited from that.
Pauline, the issue here, the petition of the Supreme Court, in fact, when they had the ruling, the issue was actually came out on the concern questioning the validity of the issue once, and not really to find culpability or liability or criminality on the part, say for example, in the executive department, and to be particular, the DOF. Actually, the Supreme Court actually denied the petition to find culpability and liability on the part of Secretary Recto. I'm not defending Secretary Recto because he can defend himself. But what I'm saying is that this is an issue of a constitutional concern. This is a constitutional question, and the only institution that has the power and mandate to assess, to review constitutionality is the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court came out with that decision, denying the petition's request to find liability, because the issue really is the validity of the issuance rather than finding fault whoever is responsible for the transfer of the 60 billion pesos. So if the higher court unanimously decide on that, who am I to find fault on whoever is in charge? So my point is that this is a constitutional issue. The Supreme Court has already released the decision, finding constitutionality, yung question of constitutionality na hindi dapat po pwede na itanggalin sa PhilHealth because this is taken out directly from the syntaxes, which will be, according to Universal Health Coverage Act, will be used by PhilHealth to lower the premium or to increase the premium, or to expand the coverage or lower the premium. Ang nagkangyari kasi dito in 2000, way back 2005, when we had 2004, there was an issue of idle funds by the PhilHealth. Hindi nila ginagamit. They're not actually increasing their coverage. They're not lowering their premiums.
But okay, first of all, that idle funds has been disputed already. It's not really idle funds. It's the reserves of PhilHealth, which by law should only go to the Universal Healthcare Act, right? Which was misappropriated according to the Supreme Court. But anyways, let me press you a little bit on Pauline's point, because, okay, sure, it may be legal, but is it moral? Right? Is it ethical? I think you would have seen Cardinal Ambot David's commentary at this point. He said it's unacceptable because ultimately it's still the taxpayers footing the bill. That 255 in savings, in quote-unquote savings that you're talking about from DPWH, that also comes from tax money, right? So let me quote Cardinal David here. Says, kami na nga, taong bayan na nga ninakawan, kami pa rin yung magbabayad. Right? How is this not a kind of double jeopardy, he says? And I would tend to agree, because it's, the only way it would not be jeopardy, it would be if the money that was used to restore the fund would have come from the restitution from the flood control scandal, right? Otherwise, it's still our taxes that's footing the bill.
I completely understand, and I agree. That there has to be. That's why the reason why we have this rectification and retribution in order that we can actually address the concern of the public. I completely understand yung frustration. So I cannot, for example, give you direct answer because, again, I cannot and I will never attempt to even defend Secretary Recto because he's more than qualified and more than capable of defending himself. I think my take on that is that on the issue of the idle funds, it was actually, for me, my understanding, the way I see it, is actually a sort of like a call of judgment, because the country needs get more revenue in order that we can implement programs and projects. And so there is already that excess funds in the field health, which, by the way, hasn't been used specifically, purposely, supposedly, is to increase and expand the coverage and lower the premiums. Hindi nila nagagawa yun. That's why we had the investigation. How come meron kayong excess and yet hindi nagagamit at hindi nararamdaman ng ating taong bayan? Maybe it's a call of judgment call on the part of the secretary. That's why we need more funding for these programs, and yet there's that available funds, which is billions of pesos, that it's not doing anything, no? Nandun lang nakatabi. So I think that's
Kong,
yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yes.
actually, kinausap na, tinanong na si Secretary Recto nung finance chair pa siya. Ang
Okay.
sinabi niya kasi, ay fina-follow lang niya yung provision, yung 1D, the fourth provision that was added, that allowed him to do that. And who added that provision was actually the House of Representatives.
Yes, the reason why I was actually explaining to you that there was an investigation conducted by both the Senate and the House of Representatives regarding the excess funds and of PhilHealth, because they are not lowering, they are not actually expanding the premiums, which basically is what the purpose of that funding is for, according to universal health coverage. So kaya nga po nagkaroon ng ganung investigation is precisely to prod PhilHealth to use that, itong funding na ito. So I think again, when it comes to using and implementing programs, ongoing programs by the government, we still need more available funds that we can actually tap in order to continue on funding big ticket projects and programs. Again, that's actually where the story started. So again, going back to the issue, to the question of Shawn, I completely agree with the frustration of the public. I think it's good now that the Supreme Court has already stated specifically on what actually is the parameter by which funding, especially for the use of GOCCs or health insurance, na dapat may parameters at may talagang klaro na legal na dapat nabatayan para hindi na ito magamit. So I completely agree and I understand the frustration of the public. That's why even prior to the issuance of the Supreme Court's decision, the House of Representatives already restored the 60 billion pesos for PhilHealth's next year budget. From 53 billion, we have already added 60 billion pesos. That's amount to 100 plus billion pesos for 2026.
The Supreme Court didn't just set parameters for how the funds can be used. It also issued a very strongly worded decision on the matter. And it rendered the provision unconstitutional and illegal. Is the House of Representatives, feeling any remorse about it at all? Is this prompting any sort of soul searching about the kinds of laws that you guys are enacting?
Actually, I believe personally, I cannot speak for the entire House, I believe that legislation goes hand in hand with the experience of man. And because of this decision of the Supreme Court, it actually add up to a lesson, you can say, and by which we are guided now this time on how we can appreciate funding and so far as appropriating funding for each agency is concerned. So I cannot speak for the entire House. What I can tell you is that this is actually a lesson learned.
I'm very glad to hear that, especially since you do have a big say. You are Vice Appropriations Chair, but we shall leave that there. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight. Deputy Majority Leader Lanao del Sur, 1st District Representative Congressman Zia Alonto-Agyong.
We're going to take a very quick break, but coming up, the agriculture industry paid a huge price this year because of back-to-back storms. Coming up, we speak to Agri Secretary Kiko Tiularel about the damage and their plans for the sector's recovery. The big story returns in just a bit. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're watching The Big Story on One News. Well, it's shaping up to be a big week. The Senate is poised to approve its version of the 2026 General Appropriations Act on third and final reading tomorrow, December 9th. That's the last step before it goes to the bicameral conference committee, where the lawmakers shall reconcile the differences between the Senate and House versions of the budget bill. At this point, it's an urgent matter as the bicam proceedings and subsequent ratification must be completed before the Christmas break to ensure the president signs the budget before the start of the fiscal year. The BICAM will, for the first time ever, be live streamed this year in a bid for transparency. And other reforms introduced by the lower house include the small committee being abolished and budget documents being made readily available on the transparency portal. The secretive small committee, usually composed of 4 members, has been blamed for billions in questionable insertions in the 2025 budget.
Meantime, more than 132,000 individuals were affected by the inclement weather caused by Tropical Depression Wilma combined with a monsoon and shear line. That is, according to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, which said that the figure is equivalent to 57,594 families. Most of the affected are in Mimaropa, Bicol, Western and Central, as well as Eastern Visayas and the Caraga region. The NDRRMC also logged 31 flooded areas in these regions and said over 22,000 individuals are still sheltering in 193 evacuation centers. TD Wilma has weakened into a low-pressure area and was last spotted off the coast of Antique. The Philippine Coast Guard reported that all shipping and fishing operations have resumed and that there are no more passengers stuck in ports.
Well, another day, another storm. How much damage did Tropical Depression Wilma wreak on our agricultural industry? Let's discuss this with Agri Secretary Kiko Laurel. Good evening, Secretary. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Regina, Shawn, and Pauline.
Sec, let's get right into it. TD Wilma, ito yung latest na tropical depression that came through the Philippines. Kamusta naman yung agricultural, was there damage and how big is it, if so?
Definitely there's some damage, no, but not too much dahil nga wasn't that strong in the first place. Then sa palay, most of our palay has been harvested. So ang problema is we cannot plant. So the problem might come yung sa susunod na harvest season, either baka delayed yun o baka mas konti. But for fourth quarter of this year, we already have information on rice na 120,000 ang loss, no? And corn about 28,000 for the last quarter, not counting Wilma pa kasi kulang pa kami sa validation. But I'll know tomorrow exactly kung ilan talaga yung estimates.
Sorry, 120,000 metric tons, is that MT?
Yes, metric tons.
120,000 metric tons losses for rice. And for corn, it's how many?
28,000.
28,000.
We can say 29,000.
Just for the fourth quarter alone. Ang laki nun,
Yes.
sir.
Medyo malaki nga. That's why we are recasting our estimates from 20.4 million tons, baka 19.98 na lang eh. Mga ganun, 19.9 million metric tons of palay.
Ang target this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and do you have any plan? Because I don't think the weather's gonna let up anytime soon. In fact, every year the storms have been more and more damaging. And then now we also have volcano eruptions. We also have earthquakes. Meron ba tayong resiliency plan for, I know that word has been overused and we're starting to get allergic, but is there some sort of plan for the agriculture sector that you are putting forth, Secretary?
Definitely may plano, no? The problem with agriculture, as in any, especially sa agri nga, right? We are identifying yung mga areas na hindi tinatamaan ng bagyo, no? Like Western Mindanao and southern part of Palawan. But of course, we have to put the irrigation, we have to start planting, we have to put the roads and everything. So it's not something quick fix, no? Sa mga existing areas naman na flood prone, we're using better seeds, no, na kaya ng mas maraming tubig, and we just have to replant them talaga. Of course, meron din tayong hit this year that will affect us first quarter of next year. Yung may na-damage kaming NIA service area na 37,000 hectares sa Region 3 dahil mukhang tinamaan ng illegal quarries yung irrigation line na yon, no? So that is an issue that we're handling right now.
And Secretary, based on your inspections, have markets been compliant with the maximum SRP that the DA has imposed, lalo na po Christmas season, so for sure demand will increase?
Well, yung sa carrots mukhang nasusunod, yung sa pork mukhang nasusunod at liempo 370, kasimpige 330. Yung white onion nasusunod, but yung red onion, nung bumisita ako, sumusunod sila sa market pag ako nag-present. Pero the day after, nung pinaikutan namin ng police, yung report, tinaas na rin nila. So may issue sa red onion that tomorrow I'm gonna get on it and try to see what we can do to call the attention of the people, mag-show cause orders and kung ano man ang legally possible para ma-address to at masita man lang at least, no?
Pwede ba yun? Kasi suggested lang, di ba? MSRP means maximum suggested retail price.
Yes,
It's still a free market.
Yeah. Enforceable ba?
Yun na nga, yun ang problema eh. There's a price act but it has to be activated, no, at a certain tinatawag na there's a time period na kailangan para ma-compute mo kung sa daily price index tumaas siya. So we cannot do it immediately. So that's why I'm thinking of submitting a draft of a law that can, at least for imported items, na pwede namin i-dictate yung presyo niyan. Kasi nga, yung red onion, ng landed niyan, 60 to 70 pesos lang. Tapos binibenta ng 250. That's too much.
But again, it's a free market economy, Secretary. Parang what you're suggesting are price caps, which goes against liberal market economy. So how would we tread that balance? Because if we were socialists, yes, you could put price caps whenever you want. But in this economy, how would it work?
For locally produced goods, talagang wala dapat price cap, or wala talagang because that's free market. But for imported goods, kasi for me, imported goods is it is not it is a privilege, it's not a right, no? So I think kung masyadong malaki naman yung profit than normal, I mean, I'm coming from business naman, I think yung 70 pesos na cost as bebenta mo ng 250 or 300 for that matter, I think that is profiteering. Ang tinitingnan namin yan actually profiteering angle. Yeah.
How would that work, Sec, no? Yung profiteering angle, like without setting, yun nga, caps or ceilings, price ceilings?
Price controls.
We technically, as much as possible, ayaw ko rin yun. But I think from time to time, kung may mga runaway prices nga na hindi naman dapat, kailangan siguro tingin ko may leverage din ng gobyerno to impose this. Kasi at the end of the day, it's the consumer that will be affected, which is the majority of all of us, di ba?
Pero Sec, di ba matagal na tong issue yung mga onions na yan, no? Merong ang onion cartel that they have been identified and we've already spoken about many times, di ba? About economic sabotage at yun yung gusto nating kasuhan yung mga yun. How are we doing on that end?
Well, as far as cartel is concerned, I don't think sa onion may cartel ngayon, dahil nga highly perishable to goods, then the price now talaga dapat ibebenta mo kaagad but the thing is yung pagparating ngayon binabagalan nila no, or maybe the other reason also na sinasabi is when we talk to all the importers, no, puno lahat ng storage so hindi sila makapagparating, then yung disposal naman mabagal din, so it's kind of tricky. Sa yellow walang issue nga, yung red onion lang talaga but I'm sure we're set to meet with the importers industry this week and pati retailers just to get to the bottom of saan ba yung bottleneck ba't nangyayari to
So pinag-iisipan din ba natin na magkaroon ng import volume controls or limits?
Well, sa ngayon nga, dapat wala nga import volume control dahil wala naman harvest season sa red onion. So parang, actually, I counted last before the holidays na 78 companies na nag-i-import ng onion So marami. So, and getting big, mas marami pa. So hindi I'm still trying to figure it out nga sa red onion
Teka lang, talking about prices during Christmas, do you want to comment on DTI Secretary Roque saying 500 pesos is enough for Noche Buena?
Well, it depends na lang siguro kung ano yung budget ng pamilya, no? It can be 500, it can be 2,000, depende na kung anong gusto ng bawat pamilya na anong budget nila, 'di ba? Of course, all the Filipinos want to spend as much as possible. 'Di ba? But to each his own for me yan. Ako hindi ako nagse-celebrate ng Noche Buena sa bahay. We just have a Oo.
Why not, Sec? Parang lungkot naman nun, Sec.
Normally kasi my understanding of Noche Buena is midnight sa
Yes.
gabi. Usually ngayon natutulog na ako before midnight eh.
Maaga pala natutulog si Secretary. But on other
Nowadays.
matters, Sec, I wanted to ask about the FMRs going back to the supervision of the Agriculture Department starting next year. How prepared are you for that? And tell us about this new interim social environmental safeguards unit that has been created within the agency.
Well, we created that unit in preparation for next year's handover of the FMR to the Department of Agriculture. I can't say we're really ready, but we are up to I can say we're up to the challenge. It's not naman rocket science to build a farm to market road, It's but definitely we need the help of the people to help us monitor. It's like we will have MOUs with farmer co-ops or farmer organizations. We will have a farm to market website with portal with farm to market watch system. We'll have time lapse photography to be uploaded to that para nakikita siya na halos live kung ano nangyayari. And we have a software actually na Abemis na sa DA since before that is very reliable. It's just a matter of us doing it and doing it properly with the help of other government agency and netizens and lahat tayo.
Pero hindi ba kayo natatakot, Sec? Kasi minsan yung mga oversight bodies, minsan nagiging corruptible din sila. So how do you plan to safeguard this?
Ang maganda sa farm to market road, in my opinion, hindi katulad ng flood control, is it's right beside where people really live, di ba? Once it is identified, then as it progresses, inaabangan ng tao yan gamitin, di ba? So hindi it's in front of almost everybody. So and gagamitin talaga at gagamitin hindi siya nakatago, hindi siya may use talaga So of course we have to be wary of people who want to make kalokohan but
Secretary,
I think with technology makakatulong.
but Sec, the vulnerability there is who gets to decide which farm-to-market roads will be built given limited budget, limited resources, right? We all know about the joke na sometimes it's farm-to-mall or farm-to-village roads naman talaga. So yung point A to point B, who gets to decide that and how do you protect that from corruption is the question here.
Definitely ang DA, meron kaming targets, areas. As far as the DA is concerned, wala kaming issue dyan as far as yung mga gusto namin proyekto. But we have to consider the reality na ang lahat ng mayor gusto yan, lahat ng congressman gusto yan, may parochial concern sila. Pati yung mga senador na let's say nanalo sa isang area, gusto din lang malagyan yung bumoto sa kanila ng farm to market road. So it's really a negotiation and we really have to filter kasi kulang talaga ang 60,000 pang kilometers ang kulang and ang budget namin next year if done properly baka 2,000 kilometers lang magagawa namin So it's really a parochial concerns and yung aim ng DA to open up new areas lalo na,
So kayo na
So
yung
that's a challenge.
So you'll be the ones na prioritizing which comes first, or sino yung priority areas. Good luck on that, Sec. Pero I also want to ask, is this also going to be in line with, kasi diba you're planning the mga post-harvest storage areas, the mga mills, storage
facilities,
etc.
Yeah, definitely. It is as far as DA is concerned. Once we build kagaya yung meron kaming gustong we want to put 2 billion na isang kalye dire-diretso sa Sultan Kudarat, which will open up around 32,000 to 35,000 na new farmland na hindi ginagamit ngayon kasi walang kalye. So, yun, then lalagyan din ng post-harvest yun. Then we have naman a World Bank funded project called the PRDP, no, na ang tuloy-tuloy yun na kalye besides the FMR yan na World Bank funded na may mga component yan na mga post-harvest facilities like cold storage, dryers, silos, kailangan talaga or a road to the ports, di ba? Or agri ports.
So part na rin yan nung Western Mindanao, one area, Sultan Kudarat, na hindi masyadong ang binabagyo. And may natural parang irrigation doon from the marsh, di ba?
Yeah, yung Linguasan Marsh alone, at if we put roads that and ayusin din, that's 300,000 hectares na marirecover doon.
It sounds like you need a farm-to-market road master plan, just like we used to have a flood control master plan na hindi lang na-implement according to Secretary Babe
Actually,
Singson.
Meron?
Meron na. Okay.
Meron actually, but sa laki nga ng kulang, parang you have to choose now kung 60,000 ho yung kulang na kilometers no, doon sa master plan. Ang total yan, mga 140 yata, 140,000 of which 70,000 is already built. Then may 60 plus thousand na kulang, something like that. So
yung estimate niyo, Sec, of 2,000 kilometers being built next year, is that an accurate estimate or that's just a...
no, depende kung ano lumabas na budget sa General
okay.
Appropriations.
Okay.
Last question for me. Anong full year forecast niyo for our total agri output, Sec? Is it gonna be below target compared to last year?
Well, compared to last year, mas malaki this year, definitely. Much more. But unfortunately, hindi yung sa aming target na we were hoping for. But it's definitely much, much more than last year.
Okay. We'll leave that there. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tu Laurel Jr. And have a good Noche Buena kahit na you don't celebrate Noche Buena.
Thank you.
Okay, we're just going to pause for another breather, but after that, starting tomorrow, ride-hailing apps are no longer allowed to cancel bookings as the holiday rush peaks. That and more stories still ahead on The Big Story. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to Big Story. Commuters may finally get a reprieve from last-minute ride cancellations starting tomorrow, December 9th. The LTFRB will be issuing a memorandum imposing penalties on taxi and TNVS drivers who often cancel booked trips due to traffic, distance, or other unjustified reasons. It will be a 5,000 peso penalty for first offenders and franchise revocation by the fourth offense. Acting Transport Secretary Giovanni Lopez also said the LTFRB will also create a hotline for the public to report erring and abusive drivers, while operators will be required to submit lists of drivers with frequent cancellations.
Actually, hassle sa amin kasi nga na-expect namin na darating sila tapos hindi naman, kinakancel nila bigla. Tapos yun, yung oras kasi uli ng pagbubook. So medyo matagal na.
Kasi kahit anong dami ng pasayeros, hindi ka rin makaporma. Kaya minsan, ang kinukuha lang namin malalapin, ganyan. Kasi kagaya na medyo malayo, matatraffic ka, abutin ka ng 2-3 oras. Maubos yung gas sa oras.
The LTFRB is also looking into whether or not to suspend surge pricing this December and to ease holiday crowding. 1,500 special bus permits will take effect on December 15th.
Now, also tomorrow, the 2025 Southeast Asian Games will officially open in Bangkok, the city that first hosted the event in 1959. And this year's edition will be staged across various venues in Thailand. And for the latest, we have Doreen Suway Baguio joining us live from Bangkok tonight. Hi, Doreen. Is everything ready for the official opening tomorrow of the SEA Games?
Yes, for sure, Pawi. The 33rd Southeast Asian Games is well underway here in Thailand ahead of the opening ceremony that will happen tomorrow. We have over 1,600 athletes competing, which is our largest delegation in the history of the SEA Games. And they will be led tomorrow by our flag bearers, Brian Bagunas and Alex Ayala. Our athletes are competing against 10 other Southeast Asian nations across 50 sports that will be scattered in different areas of Bangkok Bangkok and the province of Chonburi. Some of the sports have actually started already. In baseball, the Philippines remains unbeaten at 3-0 and are assured of at least a bronze medal already. In hockey fives, which is a debuting sport in the SEA Games, both our men's and women's teams will see action in the semifinals on Wednesday. Our handball team also debuted today, and our women's football team, the Filipinas, are in the middle of their match versus Vietnam right now. We have a lot more matches which will be played in the coming days, including Gilas Pilipinas title defense, Alas Pilipinas, of course, Alex Ayala for tennis, Heidi Diaz Naranjo for weightlifting, EJ Obiena for pole vault, among many, many others. Of course, with Signal as the official broadcaster of the SEA Games, we will be sending daily real-time updates on all platforms.
Okay, well, tell us, Doreen, what are some of the events and sports that we have the strongest chance to win medals?
Well, definitely the one I've mentioned, Gilas Pilipinas title defense, despite the challenges ahead of the opening ceremony. Alex Ayala, of course, for tennis. Alas Pilipinas coming from their FIVB stint. EJ Obiena. We also have Yumir Marshall, Ira Villegas, Nesty Petesio for boxing. So we are expecting that's going to be exciting. And we are expecting more gold medal hauls.
Well, Doreen, the last time that we won as overall champions was way back in 2019 when we hosted the SEA Games here on home soil. But how many target medals are our sports officials expecting for this 33rd SEA Games? As you mentioned, we're sending the biggest delegation, 1,600 athletes. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And the Philippine Olympic Committee actually set a goal of 60 gold medals, which is 2 gold medals more than our gold medal haul last 2023. So high hopes for the 60 gold medal haul for this year.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see all our Filipino athletes in action. For now, thank you very much for that report. That was Doreen Suay Baguio reporting to us live from Bangkok in Thailand.
And finally, for our big picture tonight, romance is in the air for 2 of the world's biggest pop stars. First up, we have Katy Perry, who just hard-launched her relationship with former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, making their romance Instagram official. The singer shared photos and videos from their trip to Japan, including a close-up selfie and a clip of them trying sushi. Neither has publicly confirmed the relationship, but rumors have been swirling for months after several sightings since July and their first public appearance in October. And then, of course, we have Taylor Swift, who international reports say is marrying NFL star Travis Kelce on June 13 next year. And if you're not a Swiftie, that is a date tied to Swift's famous lucky number. Page 6 reported that the wedding will be taking place at Ocean House in Watch Hill, Rhode Island in the United States. The couple began dating in 2023 and they announced their engagement in August of this year with a caption, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married."
I heard they paid a couple who already reserved that date for that venue. So
Were you that couple?
I wish.
Imagine getting paid off by Taylor Swift, right?
And
oh
I
my
would have
gosh.
wanted to be that person.
Right? A
Libre na
windfall.
yung wedding mo,
Just to
yeah.
change the schedule
Libre
of
na
your
yung
wedding.
wedding ko, pati yung bahay ko after.
Ocean House, is that a nice place?
No
I've
idea.
not been to Rhode Island. I have no idea. But I guess it's got a
It's
lot
gotta
of...
be, yeah.
It's got to be getting a lot of Google searches.
Right. Okay, so,
A lot of Google searches and a lot of security very soon.
And bookings.
Congratulations to both couples, even to Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau. Apparently, being Instagram official is also a thing to
Oh, yes.
celebrate.
No.
Even for
legit.
former prime ministers, right?
Yeah, that got me shocked. I did not know until I was reading that it was official. Official.
So now we know. All right, but that's it for the big story this Monday. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. See you then.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.